Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into some incredibly direct and, let's be honest, totally unfiltered advice about student romance, all taken from a Q&A with a spiritual teacher.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. We'll start with the problem that gets this whole conversation started. Then we'll look at the pretty sharp diagnosis of the situation, the unconventional cure that's prescribed, and wrap up with a warning that really does not pull any punches. So, first up, we're tackling a problem that I think a lot of people can relate to. It's about a student who's caught right in the middle between what their family wants and a secret relationship, and they feel like they're being pulled apart. And it all starts with this question. A student writes in saying she's in intense mental agony. You can really feel the pressure, right? She feels trapped, like no matter what she does, she's going to betray someone. But listen to the response she gets. It's probably not what you'd expect. There's no gentle pat on the back. The source just straight up reframes her pain, not as some deep dilemma, but as a form of foolishness. Whoa. That really sets a very direct and kind of provocative tone for everything that comes next. All right, so let's get into the diagnosis. To really get this perspective, you have to understand the very clear line it draws between two emotions we often confuse. And here is the absolute core of the argument. It's all about this key difference. On one hand, you've got true love, which is all about giving, wanting what's genuinely best for the other person. But then there's what students often call love, which this source argues is really about getting. It's about our own happiness. And it gives that a different, much more loaded name, lust. And this gives you a picture of what that getting relationship looks like, according to the source. It's built on all the fun, superficial stuff, right? Mobile phones, going to restaurants, just hanging out. But there's no real skin in the game, no actual responsibility. The argument is that in this kind of setup, you never really see a person's true character because the real pressures of life just aren't there. But wait, it gets even more intense. The diagnosis doesn't just stop at calling it lust. No, it takes it a huge step further and rebrands this whole emotional state as, well, basically a sickness. Yeah, you see that right. It's literally defined as love addiction, a disease, not just a bad choice or youthful distraction, but an actual ailment. It's even called an epidemic that's spreading in modern times. And just in case you thought that was just a figure of speech, nope. The source doubles down with this pretty shocking comparison. It says that this kind of love is a disease, just like malaria or cholera. The whole point seems to be to strip away all the romance and glamour and just frame it as a serious problem that needs to be fixed. From there, the focus shifts to the words we use. The idea is that young people throw around these big terms, boyfriend, girlfriend, without really understanding the weight behind them, and that just leads to a whole lot of confusion. And this is driven home with this, well, it's kind of a strange story about a woman who wasn't great with English. She wanted to complain that she needed another servant, but instead, she said she couldn't manage with just one husband. The point, as odd as the example is, seems to be that when you use powerful words you don't fully grasp, you can end up in some pretty foolish situations.
Okay, so if student romance is a disease, then what's the cure? Well, the advice is brutally simple. It's all about making a complete and total shift in your priorities.
And here it is. This is the main prescription. The message is crystal clear. Build yourself first. Become independent, become capable. Thinking about a life partner? That's something for way, way down the road. Only after you've become self-reliant. In this big zero, that's the consequence of getting your priorities mixed up. The text warns that if these distractions cause you to get a big zero in your exams, the fallout is going to be serious. And here's the raw, unvarnished logic behind it all. Competence isn't just about getting a good job. It's presented as the absolute bedrock of being a desirable partner. In this view, if you're not competent, you really don't have anything of substance to offer a serious relationship. Now, for anyone who feels like they're already deep in it, the source lays out this clear 4-step recovery plan. And it's pretty interesting. The first 2 steps, breaking off all contact and changing your friends, are explicitly compared to how you'd help a drug addict quit. It just keeps hammering home that disease metaphor. All right, let's bring it all home with the final section. This is where we get the most direct, no-holds-barred warning in the whole text. This is the actual response given to a university student who's complaining that drama with his girlfriend is hurting his studies. Notice, there is zero sympathy here. It's just a harsh rebuke for what's seen as completely foolish priorities.
And then the source spells out exactly why it's so foolish with this devastating timeline. It's a brutal chain of cause and effect. You neglect your studies for a relationship, which means you don't build any real skills. So what happens? She eventually finds someone who is competent and successful. And the final twist? She leaves you and uses the very incompetence you developed as the reason why. Ouch. So what about all those youthful promises, like, I'll love you forever? According to this viewpoint, they're basically meaningless. A promise like, I won't marry anyone but you, is seen as totally conditional. It's only good until a better option comes along. If you fail to become that best option, that promise just dissolves. Which brings us to the ultimate advice here. Become competent. Be number one. The idea is that success is kind of like a universal problem solver. All those family objections or problems at home that seem like huge hurdles, supposedly they just vanish when you're capable and successful.
And that really leaves us with the core question this entire philosophy is built on. It's a challenge, really, for the listener to look inward. What is your primary mission right now? Is it the external chase of getting another person? Or is it the internal, fundamental work of becoming a capable, self-reliant individual first? A powerful thought to end on.